Hi everyone, and welcome to lesson one of social influence. Today we're going to be looking at types of conformity. So our main objective today is to understand the differences between what we know as compliance and internalization. Now here's just a general overview of what we're going to be looking at in social psychology. So over the next weeks, we're going to be covering the different types of conformity. Don't worry if you don't know what those mean yet, you will do. Explanations of why people conform. Then we're going to be moving on to obedience, which is quite a big one in psychology. Explanations of why people obey and resistance to obedience and conformity. We look at individual differences in resistance behavior. And finally, implications for social change. Okay, so that's what we're going to be looking at over the next coming of weeks. What you can do, you can go back and see how we're progressing. All of those headings that we looked at, these headings, they all fit in with the examination specification. That's really important. So, the two types of conformity we need to know are um, before we go into the two types of conformity, you need to know basically what is conformity, obviously, because not all of you are going to know what it is. So in society, human nature, what we do is we kind of change our behavior or thinking, basically, when we're in a group, usually when we're in a group. So we kind of like go along with what the group thinks or what the group does. Just basically, and these can be for different reasons, which we're going to look at later on. So it's basically, it's a bit like if you of what you know, peer pressure. So you only do things because other people are doing it, and that's what we really mean as psychologists of what we mean by conformity. So there are two types of conformity that the AQA specification, so AQAA, requires that you know. So first one, compliance. And the two key words that you need to be able to state in your answers, especially when you're describing it, are underlined. That is public and private. So type 1, conformity. So type 1 is compliance. And this is basically the most common type of conformity. This is when we might be in a big group or with among a big group of people, and we just want them to think of us in a favorable way. So basically, in public, we are changing our behavior, but when we go into private, into our own homes, for example, we just go back to our normal behavior. And an example of this could be like, I don't know, being among a group of friends who don't eat meat, they're all vegetarians. So in public, you're a vegetarian, but privately, you go home and you delve into a Big Mac. Okay, so that is compliance. The keywords there, public, but not private. The type 2 conformity we need to know is internalization. And again, they still have the same two keywords, which are public and privately. However, this type of conformity is you do it. So, for example, you are a vegetarian in public with all your friends around, and privately, you still are a vegetarian. So, you go home and you continue eating vegetarian food. Okay, so this is basically you really change your behavior, your thinking deep inside. It's a very deep type of conformity. Okay, so what we're going to be looking at, you see my little South Park pictures, we're going to be looking at pictures of different types or different illustrations of what we can see as conformity. Okay, so you kind of like can take a look at the pictures and find whether you'll think those will be compliance or internalization. So you're going to see different cards now of different pictures. If you want to pick up a worksheet, you can pick one up from Miss Maduka. So you need to think, are these images, would they be more likely to reflect internalization or compliance? Again, best to try these tasks out for yourself. You can do them on your own notes, or if you want to pick up a handout slash worksheets from me, you can do. If it's going too fast, you can always pause it, that's fine. If you're not sure of what any of these pictures mean, do come along and find me and ask me. Right, so let's look at what we've learned. So we've got, on one side, we've got conformity, compliance, and internalization. Let's just see how far we have gone with our knowledge. So, can we match these up? So where does number 1 go to? Does it go to A, B, or C? Likewise for number 2 and 3. Where does it go? Right, so I can confirm that number 1 goes to C, adjusting behaviour or thinking to others or a group standard. Number 2, compliance, goes to A, conformity for a favourable reaction from others. And number 3, internalization, obviously it's B, conformity when a person actually changes their viewpoint. What about this one? Where does 1 and 2 go to? So, number 1, public but not private conformity. So, it will go to A, hello, I love Nottingham Forest. I don't really, but I want them to like me. And number 2 goes to private and public conformity, obviously B. I think Nottingham Forest is my favourite football team. Hello, I love Nottingham Forest. And this one. So, conformity, that can be public and private, which is B. Compliance, public but not private, which is C. And 3, internalization, both public or private, which is A. Okay. And you can do those to test yourselves in your own time. Do read up on a Genesis experiment. That could be a useful experiment to use as well in your psychological essays.